All right. I'd like to start out by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem
Hashem
Yahushai,
Yahushai,
Ba'ashem
Hashem
Rakakwadash.
Rakakwadash.
Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Blood is as Nothing to Eat. And pretty much this lesson comes from the inspiration of a video I was watching earlier with Elder Pastor Tahar. And he was going into the gold and silver update. And pretty much he mentioned a quote from the Rothschilds, that you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. And I guess we're going to start off with that quote and then just build from there, because, one thing about this devil is he's never really worked an honest day in his life for everything that he has. Everything they got through rape, robbery, murder, pillaging, false flags, divide and conquer, everything underhanded. He never got anything honestly. And that's why, that's one of the main reasons he's going to pay. But see, the reason why he did that is because that's prophecy. He was given a blessing of the sword. And when you're given the blessing of the sword, that's how you were gonna gain your riches, gain your wealth. So let's read that quote and then take it from there.
This is a quote from Baron Rothschild. The time to buy is when there is blood in the streets.
Right, so the time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. And when you really get into these different wars that have happened ever since America's been in power, these wars have been manufactured by the international banking families. There's a short documentary by Michael Rivero, which Elder Pastor had put us onto it years ago, that he named it All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. And pretty much what he did was he spent a whole weekend just doing research on these different wars and the reason why these wars were occurring. Now, people think the Civil War and all these different wars were based off of disagreements that America had, with Britain and, different other, reasons, instead of the true facts that they were engineered by the international banking families. Because in order for them to take over countries' resources, they have to manufacture, certain crises. They have to, justify them, being able to go in and take this nation's resources or go to war with a particular nation. And whenever you see America going to war with a particular nation, it's not because they have disagreements in religion or because, they have problems, with different point of views or political points of views or even economic points of views. It's because there's something in that land that the bankers want.
Mm-hmm.
And America pretty much is the bully, you could say, the military of the bankers, and since it's the strongest military out there, or one of the strongest militaries out there, they've been using it to their advantage to gain all of this wealth, that you see them accumulating, and the ones that really have gotten rich, over the centuries, you could say, and especially over these past 5 years, have really been these top Fortune 500 families, the international banking families, which you have 13 so-called Illuminati bloodlines, and these are all the top rich families of the earth that you don't really hear too much about except for when you come across people that speak about the so-called conspiracies, of the bankers or the 1%. You'll hear, Jeff Bezos and, Klaus Schwab, or you'll hear about, Bill Gates and Elon Musk. These are not rich. They got money, but that's chump change money compared to the Rothschild money. You want to say something?
No, they're just middle management, like the Elder Apostle Tahar used to say. These are the individuals that are out in the forefront that the elites use to do their bidding. They hide behind those individuals. So when the people find out certain things, like Klaus Schwab, they speak out against Bill Gates and individuals like that. But those are not the individuals that are actually creating policies and those are not the people that are actually moving things and have power. They're controlled.
Right. That's right. So let's go to Ezekiel 35. We're going to read through that and hit some points out of there, because this nails E to a T. Now, when you go back to the history and you go back to, our forefather Isaac, right? He had two sons, one named Jacob, the other one named Esau. If you know the story, Esau was the firstborn, and he was supposed to get the blessing. The firstborn gets the blessing of everything. But it was already prophesied in the spirit that Jacob, which was the secondborn, he was going to get it, because Jacob was the final step in the fathers of the promise. You had three fathers of the promise: Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The promise rested on Jacob. Now Abraham had different other seeds, Isaac had other seeds, but the main one that the Lord rested his promise upon was Jacob. And then when Esau sold his birthright, pretty much gave up his birthright, he also, was supplanted for his birthright. I'm sorry, for his blessing to water. And pretty much when that happened, there was nothing left for him. So he begged his father for a blessing. And when he begged his father for a blessing, Isaac gave him the blessing of the sword. And he gave him the fatness of the earth. But it would be through that sword that he would conquer the fatness of the earth. And when you look at it, these devils are living lovely. Even some of the lower Edomites are living better than Jake.
Yep.
You want to say something?
No.
But the international banking families, they have palaces, they have castles, they have islands, they have more, like the scriptures say, more than heart could wish. But it wasn't always so. They didn't always get it like that. So go ahead.
Yep, this is Ezekiel 35:1. Moreover, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it.
Right, and now Mount Seir is not talking about the actual mountain. It's talking about the government, or really, it's talking about the head, the head leaders in charge of Esau. What's that? Rosemary. Right, the head, family of Esau, or the head of Esau, which would be the Rothschilds. It would be, these other international banking families, but the very head of that are the Rothschilds. And years ago, people were not familiar with the Rothschilds. They started a lot of revolts. They started a lot of wars. They started that whole situation with Germany, and the small hats. There was a lot that they did in order to get, to the position where they're at. So the Lord is telling us to prophesy against them. That's why it says, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the noble, lift up the voice, shake the hand that they may go into the gates of the nobles. Those are the true nobles. These politicians, you see senators, governors, mayors, whatever the case may be, that's nothing. That's just like giving people a mirage or a facade that they're in control. They're not in control. The ones that are in control are the international banking families. That's why if any president that's established for the Corporation of America bucks up, what do? They take them out. You know, if you ain't playing by the games or by the rules, we got something for you.
Yep.
Okay?
It says, and say unto it, thus said the Lord power, Yahweh Shema Shai, behold, O Mount Seir, make thee most desolate.
Right. Now, the desolation is going to come when World War III is in full bloom. You know, after the MOTB, which is micro C-HIP, is implemented, and the majority of the world is micro C-HIPed, you know, then those missiles, eventually, once this war gets brewing, the Lord is going to cause these missiles to fly. You know, and that, along with the lasers from the chariots, is what's going to, you know, take out America, the whole of America. You know, not one blade of grass is going to be left, not 1 acre of land, nothing. Everything's going to be taken out. So that's when this scripture will be fulfilled, when this place is wholly desolate. Go ahead.
Yep, it says, and I will lay thy cities waste, and thou shalt be desolate, and thou shalt know that I am the Lord.
Right, because the world is going to know that it's Yahweh that did this. And this is why it's important now, you know, as we are speaking and as we're teaching, to exalt those names, because the credit that's going to be given to those names, you know, is going to be, you know, magnificent. It's going to, you know, make everything else in the past, you know, fail in comparison to what's going to happen now. That's why if you know the names of the Lord and you ain't pushing them, then you pretty much denying the Lord. You're not really, you know, exalting his name. You really don't believe in the Lord if you're doing that. Go ahead.
Yep, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred.
Right, and that perpetual hatred goes, unbeknownst to them, it goes all the way back to the birth of Jacob and Esau and the supplanting of the birthright by Jacob against Esau. So that's an old hatred that goes back then. And then these devils, as they've done the research, they know that, you know, during the so-called Dark Ages, you know, they were in captivity pretty much under the Israelites, the so-called Negroes that were, you know, the Southern Kingdom that was in all throughout Europe, so-called Europe, you know. So they know the records. This is why Benjamin Franklin said, Elder Malcolm quotes it all the time, that he will not have those swarthy individuals rule over him or something like that. Here, I think it was here in America, as they did in Germany or something like that, because all of those lands that are called European nations today, they were run by by so-called black men, you know, so-called black nobility, you know. They were ruling that, and they were putting hell on Esau because Esau's a thief, you know. So they remember all of that, and they have the records and the documentation. So that's why they have a perpetual hatred going all the way back to the birth of his 2 sons and all the way up until the present. Go ahead.
Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel.
Right, you shed the blood of the children of Israel, not just the southern kingdom, but the northern kingdom as well.
Yep.
Because, you want to say something?
No.
Because the northern kingdom that was here in the Americas, you know, we were in your way when you got here. You know, you had these plans of finding new land, you know, finding, you know, gold and silver and riches. And when you got here and you saw us, you figured that we were in the way. So you had to get us out the way. And you saw how easy it would be to do that. Because Columbus said that. He said these people are, you know, they're beautiful, they're, you know, they're very kind. And this is, you know, his response. With 50 men, you know, we could, you know, subdue them or something along those lines. You know? So these devils' minds is not towards good. Go ahead.
Yep. It says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end.
Right. Go ahead.
It says, therefore, as I live, said the Lord, Yahweh Shema Shai power, I will prepare thee unto blood.
Right. So you being prepared unto blood, because when you go into the prophecy, it said that you are the vessels of wrath fitted to destruction. So you are already destined for this destruction. You are already destined for, for judgment. The Lord said that you are the people of the Most High's curse unto judgment. So you are about to be judged. Right now, you haven't been touched, but the judgment or the sentencing has been going on for a minute. It's been going on for a while. You've been told all the wrongs that you've done. You've been told that you put your hands on the people of the Most High. You've been told that you are about to, receive your judgment, and you just laugh and scorn in it because nothing has happened to you, and you're looking at it as a joke. You at the point where you really believe the Most High is with you, because the Most High hasn't done anything to you.
Yeah.
All this wickedness you've done. You want to say something?
Now, yeah, Esau believes that, the Heavenly Father is with everything that he did. Because just think, you destroy a people group, and take all the resources or the earth for hundreds of years, and nothing has happened. And every enterprise that you set your hand forth, it's successful.
Yeah.
So you get into a state of, well, everything I'm doing is right. Well, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, the hearts of the sons of men are fully set in them to do evil. So you believe that what you're doing is right, and that you even put it on your dollar bill. God has blessed our enterprise.
Yeah.
Right? So you think that the Most High is with you, which, Satan really is your God. Right? That was it on that.
That's okay.
Yep. It says, therefore, as I live, said the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee,
right,
since thou hast not hated blood.
Right, so blood is going to pursue you since you have not hated blood. Go ahead.
It says, even blood shall pursue thee.
Even blood shall pursue thee, and that's your future. Judgment, You like to shed people's blood to take their resources. Well, yeah, you did that. You got all the resources. You have everything. But guess what? The way you got it is going to be a witness against you. Like it says in the book of James, the 5th chapter. The way you got it was not by right. But that's going to turn as a witness against you. Because the money that you have is cankered. It's not gotten justly. Matter of fact, let's go to Ecclesiasticus.
10?
Yeah,
yep.
10 and 8.
Yep.
You didn't get it justly. Those are ill-gotten gains. And when anything is gotten by ill will or ill, the scriptures say that it shall go ill with the wicked. So you are just being set up and kept nice and fat for the slaughter.
This is Ecclesiasticus 10 and 8. Because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another.
Right. You can speak.
Yeah, let me read it again. Because unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches got by deceit. And that's pretty much Esau, Edom's MO. This is how he, took power of the earth. Right? But that all goes back to his blessing that Isaac gave Esau, how he would rule and get control of the earth through the force of the sword. And he's using his blessing, to the max. He's really using his talent that the Most High gave him to subdue the earth, and to destroy people, to to oppress people. Because everything that this man has, he's gotten by ill-gotten gains. He's gotten by destruction. He's gotten by lying, stealing, right? He's never worked an honest day in his life. He's always worked. He's a hard worker, but he's a hard worker in evil and unrighteousness. The scriptures say in Proverbs the 4th chapter, how they sleep not, lest they have caused some to fall.
That's it.
So right now, as we speak, they're in some type of council or meditating upon their beds. How can they destroy the Israelites? Well, you have this thing where they're setting up a lot of individuals, social media, to come against the doctrine okay, to speak out against the Hebrew Israelites,
Yep.
to try to destroy our faith. This has, this is part of his blessing, his blessing to deceive, because his words are as swords,
Yep.
right? It says the kingdom is translated from one people to another, and this is what you're seeing right now. It's a translation of power, power going from one people to across to another, and that's Jacob. The power is waning from Esau, according to the prophecy. Esau is the end of the world. Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And this is the beginning stages, right? Because in 2 Thessalonians 2, it speaks about how he will be destroyed by the spirit of the Lord's mouth. And then the final cherry on the top, if you will is Yahweh Shai coming in the brightness of his coming. That's the power. That's the physically take him down. Right now, he's spiritually being taken down. That's also manifesting in his plans not working to the extent that he wants them to work. Okay?
That's it.
Yeah, that was it on that.
Okay, so let's end it off with that one in Ecclesiasticus. Blood is as nothing. I send it to you on your...
Con. Yep. Yes, Sirach 8. Yep, Sirach 8. You can go. And 16. It says, strive not with the angry man, and go not with him into a solitary place. For blood is as nothing in his sight. Mm-hmm. And where there is no help, he will overthrow thee.
And that's what happened, because the Lord withdrew his help from us. That's why we didn't even have the name at one point, because they stripped all of that from us. So Esau was able to conquer in the name of his God, so-called Jesus. But now we are reconquering in the spirit. Yep. Through the name of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to get us the victory, over these devils.
Mm-hmm. That's the enzyme that we hold up. The standard, like Esau, he came in, he conquers, and he puts his flag. He puts his flag on the land. All right, I come in the spirit of America. Yep. All right, we're holding up the standard. We're coming in the name of Yahweh Bashem Shai. Okay, and with that, you can see that actually things are actually happening. The scriptures say that the word of the Lord does not go out void. Mm-hmm. So the words that we speak are actually percolating throughout the planet Earth. Those vibrations, and a famine is brewing. World War III is brewing. Yep. Okay, Jacob's trouble is brewing. Uproars of the people are brewing. This is the only reason why this is happening, because the words of Yahweh Bashem Shai are going out. Right. Okay, this is prophecy. Okay.
His words don't go out void.
All right, and it's prophecy that the wicked elite are going to fall. Mm-hmm. It was prophecy for them to come into great power in the Most High, to give them the fatness of the earth, to give them power over the nations, to allow them to do what they want to do, all in order, just as talks about in Romans the 9th chapter, how the Lord raised up Pharaoh just so he can destroy him. And this is basically what the Heavenly Father has done. He has raised up Esau, Edom. He has given him all type of power, all type of technology. He has allowed him to deceive the nations, even to deceive the majority of our people, all for that very moment of him being taken down in that 1 hour. Yep. And then being carted off into captivity.
Yep. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So pretty much blood is as nothing to these devils. Like Baron Rothschild said, he said, you want to buy when there's blood in the streets. And the mother of the Rothschild sons, she said, if my sons don't want war, there won't be war, something along those lines. So hey, these devils got a lot to pay for. We're at the point now where, the tables are being turned, the chickens are coming home to roost, and eventually, before you know it, these devils are going down. Hey, Yahweh Shai said it best. I see Satan as lightning fall from heaven. And we see the same thing. We see these devils falling. And the more they attack the doctrine, the happier we get, because we know that we're getting closer and closer. Because I'm not even mad you got all these people coming against the truth. That's all part of the prophecy. That's all part of that great apostasy that happened before 70 AD. And it's the same thing that's happening now. So we know something big is about to happen. You know, you have Jake's out there and Esau and other people having dreams of these things, visions of the future. And it's not looking very good for the majority of the people out here. So if you don't have that blood over you, that hedge, the names of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, then you're not going to be protected in those times. You want to say any other?
Yeah, the wa, the exemption from judgment.
Yep.
All right, because we're in the time of judgment. All right. That's it.
All right, so with that, you know, we pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time we say, Shalom.